Thank you very much. I do appreciate the role of Inga and others in organizing this event, and I very much welcome the opportunity to participate. One of the things I'm talking about these days is that next year, 2012, marks the 25th anniversary of the establishment of formal diplomatic ties between the U.S. and Mongolia. Often on occasions like this, I take the opportunity to talk about the depth and breadth of our relationship, the different ways that we interact. However, today I'm just going to focus very briefly on just one aspect of that relationship, which is the scholarship and exchange programs, which first drew each of you here to the United States. We opened, as I said, relations in 1987, and our very first embassy exchange program, the International Visitors Program, was launched in 1989, just 2 years later. Since that time, approximately 700 Mongolians have participated in a variety of short and long-term programs funded by the U.S. government, including the Fulbright, Humphrey, Eisenhower, UGRAD undergraduate, and international visitors programs. The International Visitors Program is the single largest U.S. exchange program, and I imagine some of the room have participated in that. That particular program has brought 200 Mongolians to the U.S. so far. This number actually includes the former President Ankbayar, who, as Deputy Minister of Culture, way back in 1994, was a participant in the program. He was on a program that looked at arts and legislation in the United States. The Fulbright program, again, I think a number of people in this room are Fulbrighters, represents one of the larger embassy programs and accounts for more than 50 alumni. It was first launched in 1995 and usually worldwide is regarded as the flagship of U.S. academic programs. The number of Fulbrighters is expected to continue to increase during the coming year, and we're especially appreciative because very, very recently we got news that the government of Mongolia is committing some additional funds for the program that should fund 10 new Fulbrighters this year. This is a very important commitment, and what it means is, I think all of you know, it's a very, very competitive program. But if the U.S. government program was going to be cost such and such, with the additional Mongolian contribution, it can go much deeper into the number of applications. That's something we're very happy about. There are many good stories coming out of the various scholarship programs, and that makes it hard to know where to start. The other problem is I'm going to mention 3 or 4, and the problem with this is, first I'll inevitably omit some good stories, but hopefully there'll be more I can do later. And of course, second, I do apologize in advance that I might mispronounce some of the names. But let me highlight a few. One is Ms. Ingeral, who will speak after me. She's a Fulbrighter who studied at Stanford. On her return to the U.S., she wrote a book about her experiences in studying in the U.S., which in turn is a great tool for any Mongolians that want to know about academic life in the United States. I'm also thinking of Ms. Alton Tsetsig, a former international relations specialist at the National University of Mongolia, and a Humphrey alumnus. In 2007, she voluntarily organized a highly successful 6-week summer English and American Studies camp that involved 5 U.S. professors and more than 80 Mongolian high school students. What's also gratifying about this is that a number of Mongolian students who participated in that summer camp are themselves now studying in the United States. I'm also thinking of Dr. Aryan Satsaral, a pediatric cardiologist, works at the Third National Hospital in Ulaanbaatar. She was a Fulbright scholar from 2007-2009. She studied at Georgia State in Atlanta. I'm relating this story partly because I myself am from Georgia. It's nice to have examples from this. Also, it's just perhaps coincidence, but my 2 nieces studied at Georgia State, so that's kind of a nice coincidence too. But what's really important is that her Fulbright experience helped her to expand her cooperation with American medical volunteers. Actually, quite a few years before she started the program, in 2000, she established a close working relationship with cardiologists at the Texas Wilford Hall Medical Center. And that particular partnership has literally saved the lives of dozens of Mongolian children born with heart defects. In fact, as a result of her effort, more than 200 Mongolian children have been treated in the U.S. and Canada for their heart defects over the last decade. She also, since 2005, a team of pediatric cardiologists in the U.S. and Canada have been coming to Mongolia on a regular basis, working with Mongolian doctors and introducing new surgical procedures that again save the lives of young Mongolian children. And finally, I'll mention Ghana, Gantua, another Fulbright who studied at Williams College, an outstanding and well-known liberal arts college located in western Massachusetts. She too successfully promoted volunteerism and community service following her return to Mongolia. Most notably, last summer she developed an English for the Disabled program with support from the Embassy Alumni Office. Other returned alumni also participated, and it provided disabled Mongolians an opportunity to meet each other and also improve their English. As everybody in this room knows, these few stories only scratch the surface, and there are many more examples that could be mentioned to highlight the impact that Mongolian alumni have had both on Mongolia and the United States. In fact, one of the more enjoyable aspects of my own work is occasions like this where I can get to know people and hear more stories, in this case alumni stories. Reflecting again on the 2-decade history of U.S.-funded exchange programs in Mongolia, I am struck by the variety of experiences and the perspectives of many returnees. At some level, these diverse reactions are what the program is meant to all be about. And again, I think just to emphasize the diversity, it's, I guess my parents used to say it takes many types of people to make a world, and I firmly believe that. If we all came to this room thinking the same thing, it would be pretty boring and not very helpful. And again, I think that the variety of those experiences is something that's really important. As I often say in my public statements, Mongolians should and must make the decisions that will shape this country's future. But as these decisions are made, it is certainly useful to look at international experience across the world, including in the United States. My sincere hope is that your experience in the U.S. has and will continue to play a useful and important role for you, both personally and professionally. Certainly, education should be viewed as a lifetime experience, one that is not confined within the walls of a classroom or the boundaries of a college or university campus. And certainly, the decisions that you make now will help determine the kind of society that the next generation of young Mongolians inherits. As an embassy, we recognize that returned alumni can continue to have influence long after they complete their scholarships and return home. As you will hear today, the U.S. State Department also has some programs that provide modest funding for especially innovative and creative ideas organized by returned alumni. Typically, Mongolia does well in these kinds of competitive programs. And I say competitive because it's not money allocated to Mongolia, it's a worldwide competition that we enter. One of the examples of our success, and I would say Mongolia's success, is that proposals from Mongolia for the internationally competitive Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation have often been successful. That program started about 10 years ago. I think there's 10 grants that Mongolia has gotten. And the biggest one, in fact, this was the first year that they had what we call large grants, which are more than $500,000, was awarded to Alumni Monastery for preservation of that monastery. I'm hopeful that we will be similarly successful when applying for project opportunities that become available under alumni programs. I might say just very briefly, I've told some people this, but that Ember Vasselin grant, I said this was the first year. There were 4 successful proposals this year. One of them was for an Armenian church in Turkey. One of them was for a Mogul hunting lodge in Pakistan. It's kind of interesting. I think everybody knows that the Mongols were the pre-descendants, if you will, of the Moguls. So that was one of the projects. The third project was an archaeological historical site in Afghanistan, and then Mongolia was the fourth. So again, many dozens of countries competed for that, and we were very proud that Mongolia, in this first year, was one of only 4 countries to get that particular award. Finally, let me commend the initiative on the part of a number of alumni, including Addleton, Gorzul, Atwold, Alumni, and Burma, in founding the Alumni Association back in 2007. There may well be others that participated too, so again, forgive me for missing names perhaps, and for mispronouncing other names too. As president, Inc. Addleton has done much to support the association throughout the years, including providing funding for the initial alumni gathering, and more recently, free participants in a recent volunteer visitors program on disability issues. And some of you, again, maybe have been involved in that. That was a program in which 10 Mongolians, 7 of the disabled, went to the U.S. I met with them when they got back. I guess this was in the fall. And again, I think even though it was a short-term program, but I think it had long-term impact, which of course is what we're looking for. In any case, I much appreciate the volunteer efforts that all alumni have displayed in any number of areas. And I hope also that the networking aspects of the Alumni Association continue to be successful as well. Thank you once again for so many people coming, and thank you for the opportunity to join you this morning. I wish everyone here a successful conference as it continues throughout the day. Thanks again, Mark.